Look at this timeline. Spending $1,000 a day, $1 million lasts 2 years and 9 months. $1 billion takes 2,700 years, but $1 trillion? 2.7 million years. The Pentagon is missing $35 trillion, 35 times that amount. That sum represents more money than the entire United States economy produces in a year and a half, and the Department of Defense cannot tell you where a single cent of it went. This $35 trillion gap represents a decades-long pattern of financial chaos inside the most powerful military institution in the world. Standard federal agencies, such as the Treasury and Health and Human Services, maintain a verifiable chain of custody for taxpayer funds and pass regular, independent audits. The Pentagon stands as the only major federal department to never pass a financial audit. Since the first attempt in 2018, every successive audit through 2024 has ended in a total failure to account for trillions of dollars. Because of this persistent blackout, the elected members of Congress tasked with military oversight are essentially operating in the dark regarding the full scope of defense spending. Senior officials, including Senator Chuck Grassley, have publicly condemned this financial management as a complete disaster for years, yet the systems remain broken. The moment public money enters the Department of Defense, the chain of custody is severed, effectively neutralizing democratic oversight of the military budget. To manage the lack of documentation, accountants employ a technical adjustment known as an unsupported journal voucher. The Pentagon relies on dozens of fragmented financial systems, some running on 1980s software. Because they cannot communicate, accountants invent undocumented figures to force spreadsheets to balance. These trillion-dollar adjustments have no receipts or verification. They exist solely to make books appear balanced. This accounting practice maintains a persistent illusion of financial stability, hiding the true nature of trillions in transactions from any external review. These unaccountable pools of money allow the funding of black budget programs, officially acknowledged intelligence and weapons research that is hidden from public budgets. Government-funded research into unidentified aerial phenomena serves as a primary example, consuming unknown resources to track objects that defy conventional explanation. While national security requires secrecy, classified programs are legally required to have internal financial controls that are missing across the Pentagon's wider accounting systems. The security of these hidden systems is only as strong as the people within them, as the case of Andrew Hugg demonstrates. Hugg, who was responsible for guarding highly classified nuclear and chemical protocols, was compromised by basic social engineering during a simple dinner date. Shielding massive funds from oversight guarantees a complete lack of accountability when the human foundation of a security chain inevitably fails. The federal government does not possess a reserve of cash to cover $35 trillion in undocumented transactions. This money originates directly from taxpayer earnings, withheld through income, corporate, and sales taxes before it ever reaches a citizen's bank account. When unaccountable spending exceeds the taxes collected, the shortfall is subsidized by government borrowing, which has pushed the national debt past $36 trillion. This debt represents a mathematically engineered claim on the future earnings and taxes of every American citizen. The three core failures, missing trillions, secret UAP tracking, and nuclear security vulnerabilities, converge into a single environment. These continuous occurrences highlight a system where secrecy has become normalized to the point of total financial opacity. By maintaining outdated systems and bypassing democratic oversight, the institution operates in a space where the rules that apply to every other American department simply do not exist. Until citizens demand a strict chain of custody for public funds, the wealth generated by their labor will continue to finance the shadow economy. Right now, another official is likely at a restaurant table, loosening his tie and spilling secrets, funded by a system that remains immune to the people who pay for it. We expect a breach of America's nuclear secrets to involve a sophisticated cyber attack or a foreign spy pulling off a covert heist. Instead, on a normal evening in Washington, D.C., the most sensitive information in the military was shared over a corner table in a restaurant. This is the Pentagon, the command center for the most heavily funded military in history, sustained by a budget approaching $1 trillion a year. The protocols managed here govern chemical and nuclear arsenals. These systems are designed to be fail-proof, built to survive global catastrophes, and accessible only to individuals with the highest security clearances in the government. But technological armor often masks a persistent vulnerability. The entire apparatus relies on human beings, people who remain susceptible to flattery, social engineering, and the simple desire for connection. At night, DC restaurants are full of government workers trying to look ordinary, loosening their ties and leaving the office behind. One of those workers was Andrew Hugg. As the branch chief of chemical and nuclear surety for the U.S. Army, his entire career centered on the safety and compliance of the world's most devastating weapons. During a series of dates, Hugg spoke freely with a woman he met online, unaware she was an undercover reporter for the O'Keefe Media Group with a hidden camera. He detailed exact nuclear launch procedures, chemical weapons research, and specific military strategies regarding Iran. He even revealed a covered-up incident where an Army chemist was exposed to a nerve agent on American soil. Following the release of the footage, the Army removed Hugg from his post and escorted him from the Pentagon. His professional digital footprint was deleted within hours. In a moment of extreme irony, Hugg described the tactics of social engineering to the reporter, explaining how people are manipulated, even as he was falling victim to those exact methods himself. Hugg was a man at the top of the security pyramid. His failure suggests that no amount of high-level clearance can account for basic human weakness at the dinner table. While some secrets leak out through human error, others are withheld by institutional design, particularly documents that challenge the government's official narrative of national security. In May 2026, the military released a batch of files concerning unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, marking the first time the Pentagon has formally shared its data on objects it cannot identify. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth noted that these files had been hidden behind classification layers for years. Their release was an admission that the public had been excluded from this data by intentional policy. This policy of secrecy dates back to 1965, during the height of the Cold War space race, when every object in orbit was tracked with the highest intensity. During the Gemini 7 mission, astronaut Frank Borman radioed NASA to report a bogey. He described hundreds of unknown objects forming a debris field around his capsule. Borman was not alone. Legendary astronaut James Lovell was sitting right beside him, witnessing the same phenomena. The government immediately classified the report and kept it buried for 60 years. Whether the objects were mundane debris or something more complex, the decision to hide the encounter indicates a long-standing priority to control information rather than clarify it. These sightings have continued into the present, involving modern sensor data and witnesses with elite military training. In 2023, a senior Navy officer testified before Congress about a tic-tac-shaped object that emerged from the ocean off California. He described it accelerating at speeds that exceed the capabilities of any known aircraft. Investigations by a congressional task force found that these objects frequently congregate near sensitive U.S. nuclear facilities and military bases. The military spends hundreds of billions on aerospace defense every year, yet it appears unable to identify or intercept these targets. Acknowledging these encounters forces the Pentagon to admit a difficult reality. They currently lack full control over their own sovereign airspace. Operating a global network of classification, monitoring, and cover-ups requires a massive amount of funding that exists outside the public eye. This chart visualizes the scale of the Pentagon's financial failure. $35 trillion in taxpayer money is currently unaccounted for. This figure is pulled from a series of failed internal audits, representing a systemic accounting breakdown persisting for decades. Much of this capital is absorbed into black budgets, programs for classified research and defense that bypass the standard congressional oversight process. This money is funneled into an institution that has essentially become a self-funding entity, using public taxes to power its own unchecked expansion. These trillions represent the labor and taxes of ordinary citizens, given to an institution that repeatedly struggles to manage its most basic security responsibilities. We are presented with a military that reveals launch procedures on dates and watches unknown objects hover over its bases, all while asking for a blank check. When an institution operates in total darkness and fails its own audits, the internal structure of accountability begins to collapse. The United States military is currently operating with $35 trillion of your money they cannot track, guarding secrets they cannot keep, in an airspace they cannot fully defend.